They've never found the body of the first and only boy who broke my heart, and they never will. There are 17 madhouses in the city of Lovecraft. I've visited all of them. The line that shocked me the most.
You're such a fragile thing.
I read a lot of books in one sitting, and I can usually tell if it's going to be a one-sitting book pretty quickly. Not always, but most of the time it's that first line that just hooks you, and then you can't put it down. And if the first line is good, most of the time the rest of the book is going to be great. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sam, and I have a list of books with great first lines that I think y'all should read. There was one book that made me think about doing this video. It was one of the craziest first lines I'd ever read, and it wasn't even that it was like the best first line in the whole world. It was just that it was so unexpected when I picked up the book that it hooked me immediately. I did read the book in one sitting, and then I thought about how to do this video, and I've been thinking about this for a long time now, and so I finally went through all my books and read the first line of a lot of different things that I thought might have a good first line, and I came up with 6 that I think have really good first lines that will hook you from the beginning and that the book actually holds up, that I think y'all should read. So before we get into the 6 books, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon. I post on Sundays and Wednesdays, and you're going to find a mix of book lists like this, reading vlogs, my TBR game, lots of bookish content. So the first book that I have on my list, I'm going to read the first line first, and then I will show you the book. Some of these, it's technically the first 2 lines, but it's okay. It's fine. So for all these books, I'm going to read the first line, and then I'm going to show you the book. Some of these, it's technically the first 2 lines, but same thing, it counts. So for this one, they've never found the body of the first and only boy who broke my heart, and they never will. And this book is The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller, and this follows our main character, Alessandra, and she is very ambitious, and she's got 3 goals. She is going to go find the Shadow King, she's going to make him fall in love with her, she's going to kill him, and then steal his crown. So it's a wild, wild ride. It is a standalone young adult fantasy, upper level young adult fantasy, and it is so good. I really felt like this book held up. I did read it in one sitting, and I absolutely loved every second of it. I do find that standalone fantasies are very difficult to pull off, but this one does it so well. The second book is cheating a little bit. It is definitely more than 1 line, but it's so short. It's gonna be fine. So, this is the story of a messed up girl and how her family paid people to send her into the wilderness with a bunch of other messed up kids in hopes that it would somehow make them less messed up. This is a real thing that happens. It might even be an eventuality your parents have considered for you. But this is the story of what happens when things go wrong. And that's the entire first chapter, and all the chapters in this book are super, super short. And this is The Wild, and this is by Owen Lockinen, and this is a young adult survival horror thriller type of novel, and it is a wild ride. This book has actual jump scares in it. I've never read a book that could actually make me jump the way a movie would, and I just thought that was so cool. But it is so easy to read because the chapters are literally a page or 2 each, and you just can't put it down. You have to know what happens next. You start at the beginning with that first chapter, and then it just keeps going from there. I would highly recommend this book if you like survival type stories or thriller type things or anything like that. The third book's first line is, "There is blood under my fingernails. I wonder how many of my people I've killed this time." This book is A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and this is by Bridget Kemmerer, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So we have Harper and we have Wren, I think? Yeah. And basically Harper is stolen away from Washington, D.C. and brought to this kingdom in this magical world where she is told lots of things, and I don't actually know how much of anything is a spoiler. She's told that she has to break the curse, but she doesn't really know what that entails, but she's not allowed to go home, and it spirals from there. It's a very, very straightforward Beauty and the Beast retelling with some little twists here and there, but it's heavily influenced by Beauty and the Beast. I loved this series. I actually really liked one of the side characters of book 1 significantly better than anybody else in the book, and I was so glad that he was more of a focus in the next two books, but it was such a good series. I really liked it, and I really feel like the whole book holds up and the whole series holds up. The next book is a personal favorite. So the first line is Novalee Nation, 17, 7 months pregnant, 37 pounds overweight, and superstitious about sevens, shifted uncomfortably in the seat of the old Plymouth and ran her hands down the curve of her belly. So this one's a little bit different than the others because it is more of a contemporary novel, not a fantasy or thriller, but this is Where the Heart Is, and this is by Billy Letts, and this is one of my favorite books of all time. I actually saw the movie before I ever read the book. It's also one of my favorite movies, and I only own the movie cover, which does make me a little bit sad because I would like the actual cover, but my mom has had this book for years, so I just took it from her. And what I love about this book is how quirky the characters are. It's just so much fun. But this book follows Novalee Nation, and when she is very, very pregnant and on her way to, I think it's Nashville in the book. In the movie, it's California. In the book, I think it's Nashville, and with her boyfriend. And she stops at a Walmart to use the bathroom, and he abandons her. And so she ends up living in this Walmart where she eventually gives birth, and then it's kind of her story of coming back from nothing and how she learns to live in this town and all the people in the town and the life that she and her baby build here, and it is just so cute, and the characters are so much fun. I have never read about characters quirkier or more fun than this book. It's one of my favorites, and I don't read a lot of like contemporary fiction type of things that's not like genre fiction, but I really, really liked this one. The next book is an old favorite of mine, and I've never finished the series because I didn't have the rest of the books. They weren't out when I first read it, and I never got around to ever reading the rest of the series, but I have read this book like 3 or 4 times. And the first line is, there are 17 madhouses in the city of Lovecraft. I've visited all of them. This book is The Iron Thorn, and this is by Caitlin Kittredge, and I read this book back in like middle school and fell in love with it, but I read it back in that time when time was very like stretchy and 1 year felt like 10 years, and that doesn't happen anymore. But I probably read this book 3 or 4 times within the same calendar year because I know that the second book wasn't out yet, or I would have read it because I loved this series. Like, I loved this book. I wanted to keep going, but there wasn't another book for me to read. So but I know I've reread it, so I can only think that I probably read it more than once in the same year. But this book follows Aoife, and this is in the city of Lovecraft, and there's a necrovirus going around that basically like causes madness, and it's not like it's kind of like has to do a little bit with genetics, but not entirely. And Eva's family have all gone mad at 16, and she is nearing her 16th birthday, and this is like a steampunk world, so there's like fantasy elements, there's like night creatures, and she gets this letter from her brother who she hasn't seen since he supposedly went mad, but she's wondering if maybe he's sane now that he's writing her this little note, but she doesn't know where he is, so she goes off on this quest to find him. And it's really, really good, honestly. And I really want to reread it now because I know that it's a trilogy now, so I really want to read the rest of the books because I did really enjoy this one. I really think this holds up to that first line. I can't speak for the second book or the third book, but I am planning to read them now that I know they exist. And the last book is the book that started this whole video. It's the book that gave me the idea and the book that had the line that shocked me the most very quickly early on. I do feel like the entire book holds up, and the first line is, she couldn't remember the first book she had eaten. This book is Horrid by Katrina Leno, and this book follows Jane after the death of her father, and she and her mom are moving from California to Maine to live in her mom's childhood home. But once they get there, her mom starts acting really weird. She seems to be like spiraling. There's this locked room that she tells Jane she's not allowed to go in. She says it's just a closet, it's just a storage room, but Jane ends up getting into the room, and it is very much not a storage room. It looks like a little girl's bedroom. There's a lot of really strange things happening in the house. This is such a fun young adult horror novel. I absolutely loved it. I read it in basically one sitting. I had to work that day, but I found myself like reading it when I could at work, and like I couldn't put it down. It was so good, and it definitely started a new trend of me really liking young adult horror and wanting to read more. Those are 6 books with great first lines that I absolutely recommend that you should read. If you have a book with a great first line, let me know in the comments because I am so excited to read more, and the first line really makes or breaks a book for me. So if you have a really great one, let me know in the comments, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!
Oh my love.